Hey folks, in Joe Biden's America, criminals are exalted and the police are condemned. It's sad to say, but that's going on in so many communities across this country. And you need to be prepared and properly trained to defend yourself and your family. Thankfully, they're my good friends at iTarget Pro. This revolutionary system allows you to dry fire practice with your actual firearm anytime in the safety and the privacy of your own home. It is a great deal. I love this. When I go up to the cabin, I use the iTarget Pro. It's amazing. So no more inconvenient trips to the range. And with inflation causing the price of ammunition to skyrocket, you're going to save a ton of money there too. Just download iTarget's proprietary app, load the laser bullet into your firearm, and start your training experience. iTarget will help you develop muscle memory, sharpen target reaction speed, sight alignment, trigger function, and so much more. Listen, iTarget Pro comes in all the major calibers, including the 223, so you can stay sharp with almost any firearm. Go to itargetpro.com right now and save 10% plus get free shipping with the offer code JUSTNEWS. That's one word. So save 10%, get free shipping with the offer code JUSTNEWS, one word. This makes a great gift for Father's Day and is less expensive than a few hours at the range. Why not take advantage of it? That's the letter I, targetpro.com, itargetpro.com, and just use the special code JUSTNEWS to get incredible savings. Get started today. I use this at my cabin. I love it with my 9mm. You'll love it as well. Check them out today. They're great people. Hello, America, and welcome to a new edition of John Solomon Reports. Yeah, it's the Monday after Mother's Day edition. That's a good day. I like that. I had a good time with my wife and good time to spend with my mother and mother-in-law on the phone and thanking him for the love they've given us as a family, and I hope you did too. Hey, a lot of news to come on the show today. We have two amazing guests. First up, our good friend Kash Patel. Yes, that Kash Patel, the guy that unraveled the Russia collusion story, that unraveled some of the Hunter Biden shenanigans. He's here to join us. Some really big news are going to break tonight on Just the News. You should come back before you go to bed tonight. You'll see the story. We're going to tease it and give you a little bit of it with Kash Patel. And then right after Kash Patel, we broke a big story over the weekend. It's already having impact in the marketplace. Joining us in the second half of the show is my good colleague, Aaron Kliegman, great investigative reporter at Just the News, broke the story of how Governor Kemp in Georgia gave away $1.5 billion to an electric vehicle company that's doing poorly, that has a large ownership stake from George Soros, the liberal mega donor. And this morning, right after the story broke, guess what? Ford Motor Company, another investor in the company, it pulled its stock out, sold off $8 million. The company is tanking. Part of the reason we wrote the story, there was a lot of questions about this company giving it $1.5 billion when it wasn't necessarily viable, has raised a lot of questions, and that story broke. I hope you enjoy that. All right, well, before we go to the break, and we're going to get to Kash, and we're going to get to Aaron very quickly, I just want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to break tonight. For most of the last 6-7 years, the media narrative about Mike Flynn was he was a stooge for Russia. Yeah, he was talking to their ambassador. By the way, that was his job as national security advisor. Oh, and he went to a dinner in 2015 sponsored by Russia Today, RT, the government propaganda agency. And he sat with Putin and others, and he took some money for it. And oh, what a horrible Russia-loving guy. Well, tomorrow, we're going to continue a story I first kind of hinted at back in 2019 at the Hill. But we're going to deliver the goods tomorrow. We have an unsealed, declassified affidavit from a former senior defense intelligence agency, that's the main spy agency of the Pentagon, revealing that Mike Flynn went to the RT dinner in 2015 in consultation with, at the request of, in working with the Defense Intelligence Agency and other spy agencies. He essentially was spying for America by going to that dinner. And then he came back and debriefed everybody on what he found. What a difference 7 years makes. Another media lie is going to go by the wayside, but this document is rather extraordinary. We're going to put it out tonight. We're going to break that story. And oh, by the way, as that's going on, there are people trying to make Mike Flynn in the Pentagon pay back the money he got for this operation. He took a check from RT. They're going to dock his pay unless he protests against it. So the feds can't seem to get over their obsession with Mike Flynn. But we're going to tell you the real story of what really went on at the RT dinner, what the government was doing, what Michael Flynn did afterwards. This affidavit is a blockbuster. So check that out. All right, we're going to talk to Kash about it right after we come back from the commercial break. We'll first hear from our great sponsors, partners, and advertisers. Come back, our exclusive interview with Kash Patel. We're going to talk about John Durham and, of course, this blockbuster we're going to break tonight about Mike Flynn. And then after that, Aaron Kliegman, the great reporter from Just the News. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, folks, in Joe Biden's America, criminals are exalted and the police are condemned. It's sad to say, but that's going on in so many communities across this country. And you need to be prepared and properly trained to defend yourself and your family. Thankfully, they're my good friends at iTarget Pro. This revolutionary system allows you to dry fire practice with your actual firearm anytime in the safety and the privacy of your own home. It is a great deal. I love this. When I go up to the cabin, I use the iTarget Pro. It's amazing. So no more inconvenient trips to the range. And with inflation causing the price of ammunition to skyrocket, you're going to save a ton of money there too. Just download iTarget's proprietary app, load the laser bullet into your firearm, and start your training experience. iTarget will help you develop muscle memory, sharpen target reaction speed, sight alignment, trigger function, and so much more. Listen, iTarget Pro comes in all the major calibers, including the 223, so you can stay sharp with almost any firearm. Go to itargetpro.com right now and save 10% plus get free shipping with the offer code JUSTNEWS. That's one word. So save 10%, get free shipping with the offer code JUSTNEWS, one word. This makes a great gift for Father's Day and is less expensive than a few hours at the range. Why not take advantage of it? That's the letter I, targetpro.com, itargetpro.com, and just use the special code JUSTNEWS to get incredible savings. Get started today. I use this at my cabin. I love it with my 9mm. You'll love it as well. Check them out today. They're great people. All right, anyone that's been listening to my show, they knew this moment was coming because we've had the great Philip Patrick on. It's finally happened. The Fed is realizing the dire straits that our economy is in, thanks to our loose long-term monetary policy. Apparently, you can't just spend trillions every year with no repercussions. Now, to play catch-up, the Fed has been raising rates, interest rates that is, and it plans to do so 7 times this year. That's mind-boggling. 7 interest rate hikes in a single year. That's how much trouble we're in. So you're already starting to see those ripple effects in the housing market as people's buying power is becoming diminished. Mortgage rates go up. Have you considered what could happen in the stock market if our economy stalls out? Well, we saw the last few weeks. You know what that looks like. Don't wait till that happens. Take some of your profits from the stock market now and solidify them with gold from Birch Gold. Throughout history, gold has maintained its value better than any other investment in the world. Text Just News to 989898 for a free zero obligation info kit on holding gold in a tax sheltered retirement account. Again, all you gotta do is text the word Just News, one word, to 989898 and secure the gains you made while you can. Information is the first hand of power when you're going through a turbulent economy. Join the thousands of happy Birch Gold customers with countless 5-star reviews and an A+ rating for the Better Business Bureau. I trust the professionals at Birch Gold. You should too. Text Just News to 989898 right now and protect your future with gold. All right, folks, welcome back from the commercial break. You know this man. Every time he comes on the show, he lights it up. He makes sense of Russia collusion, of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's scams across the globe. He is the former chief investigator for the House Intelligence Committee, the man that helped unravel the Russia collusion story with Devin Nunes, and later was chief of staff at the Pentagon. Joining us right now, our good friend of the show, Kash Patel. Kash, great to have you on.
John, thanks so much. It's great to be with you as always. Looking forward to our exciting conversation.
Yeah, well, listen, just before the break, I hinted to people that tonight I'm going to be breaking a story about Mike Flynn. And it's a very simple story, which is for the last 6 or 7 years, the mainstream media has repeatedly said when Mike Flynn went to Russia and took that $30,000 fee from the RT television network, it was just a self-enrichment scheme that made him beholden to Russia. Tonight, we have this affidavit from the former DIA officer, declassified now, out in the open, saying, no, Mike Flynn came to us, told us about this. We asked him to go spy. We gave him a briefing, told him what we wanted. He went over and he came back and he met with all the intelligence chiefs of the Pentagon and told us what he learned. So basically, Mike Flynn was doing a patriotic intelligence operation, not getting himself enriched by RT. I think you've probably known this because you had access to things that other people don't, but the public will be hearing this for the first time. What should they take from it?
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate tragedies of a man who served his country with honor and distinguished himself, and acted appropriately, and then the media, shredded his career because he ended up siding. He, a man who worked for President Barack Obama, and then later thought that President Trump's national security policy was stronger, ended up switching over to that side, and the media hated him for it, and they never let him go.
Yeah.
And thanks to your great investigative work, it's finally coming out that, no surprise, Mike Flynn didn't do anything wrong on his trip to Russia.
Yeah, in fact, he was spying for us, and I guess because he's an intelligence officer, right? He couldn't say that publicly when he was being maligned. And It's taken us 6, almost 7. I think the dinner was 2012, so it's nearly 7 years ago for the truth to come out. When you look at this now, I mean, the media has, of all the people, Carter Page and Mike Flynn probably were the most falsely portrayed in the media. As we go forward now, and you're doing a lot of work, the fight with Kash is such an important movement. Do you think there are prevailing, growing pressures on the media to realize how wrong they were and start to course correct? Do you think there's enough pressure to get the traditional media to course correct in some way?
I mean, I think there's enough pressure. I don't know that they'll do it, though. I think one of the good things that has come from all this, John, is, through your leadership in the journalism world, is that people have realized that the mainstream media is a bunch of liars on almost every story, and has politicized it to their advantage just to advance the false narrative. Now, unfortunately, that's only half the battle. The media is not going to change. The New York Times, the Washington Post, these guys are never going to change. The HuffPost or whatever. You insert any Slate magazine and all these clowns that have
an agenda
to just destroy accurate reporting. All they care about is their agenda and getting their names and their Pulitzers and then patting themselves on the back. And especially if Donald Trump decides to run again, John, I just think the mainstream media is going to double down and advance whatever narrative. If it's not a Russiagate or UK impeachment fiasco or Afghanistan or Mike Flynn or, John Durham, it's going to be something. They're going to find something else, and it's going to be the next narrative, and they're going to spend 2 years writing about it falsely.
Yeah, really remarkable. Just remarkable. There's an amazing posting this morning on Substack written by Steve Schmidt, the former campaign chairman for John McCain, then later ran the Lincoln Project. And he basically says, I have to confess, this is a story about lying. I lied to you all these years. I've lied to you all these years about a story I broke. This is funny. I broke this story at the Washington Post. Oleg Deripaska and John McCain met back in 2006. It's a story that I broke. The New York Times followed up on. It is a remarkable thing. But he talks about how he lied to the faces of reporters to attain an outcome that would protect John McCain for trying to help this Russian guy. When someone like that comes forward and all these media were relying on this guy for a decade or more, there has to be a moment of wrecking and self-introspection, saying, wait, this guy that we trusted lied, and lied again. Do you think that these sort of revelations, there's two things, right? One, have an effect on the public, one on reporters. At what point do reporters realize they have an obligation to check the things that people tell them and not just run with it like, the Steele dossier?
Yeah, I think, that's just it. I think when the tenure of Donald Trump is finally said and done with, then maybe they'll get back to journalistic integrity. Because that's, in their minds, that's what's caused them to discard journalistic integrity. And the Steve Schmitz of the world, no surprise, we knew was lying forever. Now comes out and says he's been lying and peddling false stories to the media, not just on, John McCain, but Russiagate and Steele and all his other relationships, and then creating the Lincoln Project. And then, as we know, they went out and lied on the campaign trail. And they got caught lying, and they said, we're lying, and we're going to continue doing it anyway. I mean, what kind of American citizen calls himself an upstanding individual of our society by knowingly going out there with his megaphone and lying to the American people, many of which who rely on those words because they don't know better. They're not journalists. They're not investigators. They're not law enforcement.
Yeah.
They're out there doing their jobs as teachers and cops and firemen and what have you, and they rely on the news to get the news. I know it's crazy, but I think we've come so far from that simple concept of turning on our TVs or our radios and being like, okay, we can do 20 minutes and understand what's going around the world and our country today accurately. That's gone. And, I just thought more people should just listen to your show if they want actual reporting, and then throw out the rest, because it's not coming back for some time, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is remarkable. It's a pretty remarkable moment in history. Reckonings of all sorts. Now, I want to come back to something that happened over the weekend. The judge made a ruling in the Durham case. We're heading into the Sussman trial. And he seemed to say, which is, I'm going to reserve judgment on some of this idea that there was a joint venture, how much of this I'm going to let in. He seemed to be almost inviting the prosecutors, hey, why don't you throw a conspiracy charge here and make these things more relevant? How did you interpret the judge's ruling over the weekend?
First of all, there's a couple of interesting things, and I haven't talked about this with anyone. It's my former time as a federal prosecutor and a public defender, having been on both sides of the aisle here in federal court. It's interesting that this judge is issuing rulings over the weekend. To me, that hints at the fact that he does not want this trial continued, and he wants it to start on Monday as scheduled, or next week sometime. And that's pretty telling for a federal judge to issue these types of decisive rulings over the weekend. But more importantly, John, I think you alluded to it. Having tried so many cases and having tried to use the federal rules of evidence to get in evidence to show that the defendant is guilty of the charged conduct, sometimes judges would just come back to me and say, I've seen everything you have. I can't tell you how to try your case, but I'm going to rule against you on this one matter because I think you can just prove your information and don't need the rules of evidence. You can charge the conspiracy. You can charge the co-conspirator. And so he's almost like, look, I, the judge, don't want to commit reversible error, so I'm going to hedge on the side of safety and the defendant's due process rights. But should you, John Durham, come in and say there's an actual conspiracy here under an indictment that you've charged, then the judge is going to let it all in. It's a very interesting gamesmanship in terms of how to prosecute a case, because John Durham might not want to let out of the bag just yet that he has a charged conspiracy coming or sealed. There's a lots of reasons to keep that under seal or hold that off until the Sussman trial is done so he obtains a conviction against Michael Sussman. And if I were John Durham, I wouldn't be too worried about the ruling, and I wouldn't let it distract me from my case, because he has so much evidence to show that Michael Sussman is guilty. I don't know that he necessarily needs the overarching conspiracy evidence. It's very helpful, and it would help a jury to understand some of the outlying issues. But it was a very interesting dance between the judge and John Durham, and I think it'll continue this week and through these next few days right up until the trial, knocking out some of these motions and decisions.
Yeah, there was also a barb at the defense team, I think a really powerful one, because at one point he said, I'm not sure that the defense wants to challenge the idea that Michael Sussman told the FBI that he wasn't working for anyone. Remember early on when this indictment came down, the spin in the media, and quite frankly in some of the early defense filing was, well, there's no proof that he said that he wasn't working for a client. And then John Durham whips out a text message between him and James Baker and says, in which Sussman clearly says, I'm coming to you on behalf of no client. I'm doing this for the good of the country. And the judge kind of makes fun of that, saying, I'm not sure that the defense is going to want to challenge that anymore. That I felt like was a veiled warning to the defense. Don't pull any more crap in my courtroom and try to get away denying something you know to be true. Did you take that the same way?
John, I think you should just start trying John Durham's cases for him, because for a guy who hasn't been in the legal world, you seem to nail it better than I do. You have a grasp that's very unique, and it's informative. I think that's exactly how people should take it, because it's again this dance between the prosecutor and the judge. Look, federal judges aren't stupid. They get to see the evidence. They're not supposed to weigh in on it during trial, but they know if an individual is guilty or not based on the evidence, and they're supposed to just ensure that due process is followed and the jury gets to see the evidence according to the law.
Yeah.
And so when they make these sorts of little decisions, and they tell or hint at the prosecution or the defense, you might be overreaching. You got to take your Q's and A's from the court sometimes to alter your presentation of the case, because the judge might have thought of something you didn't. And it happens every day in federal court. And so I think that's what's going on here. This judge is very dialed into this case, probably because it's the most prominent case going on in the U.S., for all of last year, the year before, and all of this year. So I think it's going to be an interesting trial to cover, and I'm sure your audience is going to be wanting to know the day by day, and no better guy than you to analyze that.
It's remarkable, and I think now, and you were the first person along with Devin Nunes, to really understand the magnitude of this. At first, it just felt like maybe the FBI had made a mistake or got taken, but now it becomes more and more clear every day that this was a knowing and willful effort to sell a fake story to the American people, and that there were really extreme warning signs that was going on, everybody knew was false when they were sharing it. There's a moment in the court filing a couple of weeks ago where John Durham drops a email, I think it was from the Washington Post, but it's from one of the reporters saying, hey, we checked out this whole Carter Page thing and it's BS. He used the actual full word, but we'll use the PG word. The reporters are telling Fusion GPS their story is BS. And oh, by the way, a few months later, that publication goes in and reports the BS anyways. The media, the Clinton campaign, Fusion GPS, they all seem to be working, and everybody had a warning sign that this was bogus, and it kept going. Do you think that we get to a point where John Durham charges a larger conspiracy? Obviously, the judge is hinting at it. Do you think now there's enough evidence in the public realm to justify a conspiracy or a racketeering charge?
I do. I've always thought that, and I think we've seen enough from John Durham's hand through the Sussman and Danchenko trials and the pleadings that he's been filing based on representations that the defense have made that I think are inaccurate, and that he's coming over the top and said, well, since you've opened the door, here, let me show you my joint venture conspiracy, and let me label by title the individuals involved, everyone from Fusion GPS, the Clinton campaign world, Podesta, Mook, Sullivan, even the likes of Fiona Hill, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr, and so many other corrupt officials at the FBI, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page. I mean, this list goes on. And the fact that it takes me more than 60 seconds to recite only half of the players involved in this criminal conspiracy tells me the magnitude of it, and the fact that John Durham is able to go through these methodically and lay them out shows to me, as a former federal prosecutor, if he hasn't already built it, and that's the thing I try to tell people, he may already have his general conspiracy case built. He just hasn't taken it to the grand jury, or it may be under seal. He's allowed to do those things because he wants to go out and obtain these lower-level convictions first of the Sussmans and the Danchenkos, and then present the larger cases later. That's what you do. You don't come out with your biggest case first.
Yep.
What you
roll
do
up.
is you show the joint venture criminal conspirators, I've got the guys on the bottom and the middle level, and now they're convicted. Do you really want to go to trial on us? Because I've got 90% of the work done, and I'll put the bow on it and take this grand conspiracy to trial if you do. I mean, it's how I ran conspiracy cases, and it's just a smarter way of doing things. I think that's what John Durham is doing.
Yeah, and there seems to be now. Now, the lawyers obviously have multiple interests because everyone's conflicted in this case. They're representing multiple parties. But it seems to me, if I'm Michael Sussman and I'm now looking at the body of evidence, and the judge just said to me, hey, you're not going to get away with saying you didn't tell him that you weren't working on behalf of a client. Maybe there's a lot of pressure in Michael Sussman's mind to make a deal and roll up on some of the other folks. Do you think that is a discussion he and his defense lawyers are having now?
I think it's too late.
Yeah.
And here's why, John. When it comes to, look, a defendant always has the right to plead guilty in federal court, but if a defendant wants to make a plea deal with the prosecution, you can't do it at the last minute, because part of plea negotiations is that it saves the prosecution and the government time and resources and expenses from prosecuting your case, because you have exercised your constitutional right to go to trial, which is fine. But once the government gets past a certain point, and I, as a former federal prosecutor, this many times, I said the plea cutoff date is X for a plea negotiation with me, the government, because then I'm going to have to start calling in witnesses, preparing documents, going through classified information, going to the court, asking for all these orders. We are going to prepare for trial. And you cannot come to us on the eve of trial and expect what we call acceptance of responsibility, which is what allows you to receive a lower sentence as a result of a plea negotiation. We're what are we, a week, days away from a trial here? I don't believe there's going to be a plea bargain struck, but the defense could always come in and plead straight up to the court, to the judge, but there's also no advantage for them at this point in time in doing that either. So I think we're going to see a trial pretty soon.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And also the judge issuing orders on Saturday tells he has a sense of expediency. He's not going to let this trial drag on. This trial's about what the Clinton campaign did and what the machinery of the DNC did. On the flip side of this, there is an ongoing investigation of the FBI. It seems to me that June is a very important date if you're going to charge any conspiracy or wrongdoing. That's the date of the last of the four FISAs, the third renewal, the fourth FISA. I think it's in mid-June, as I recall. It would be the 5-year statute of limitation. Now, certainly a conspiracy case can go beyond the statute, but if you look at that, do you think there's enough evidence to charge more people in the FBI with knowingly and willfully misleading the courts and the Congress with a false story?
Absolutely. I've always thought that because of my time as chief investigator in Russiagate. We've seen the documentation from the FBI. We've seen the fact that after we wrote the FISA court, we being under Chairman Nunes' leadership, wrote multiple letters, including some that were classified to the FISA court, to tell them these 4 FISAs that you put on Carter Page and President Trump's campaign are wrong. They're based on false, intentionally lied about information, and we methodically laid it out to them. Of course, they ignored us, but then what they ended up doing once the Inspector General came in and validated our entire findings was the FISA court then reversed 2 of the warrants that they issued, basically saying...
Yeah, that is a rare thing to happen.
It literally never happened.
Yeah.
And the problem is, it's almost an example of us doing our job too well, because there's information in those FISAs that they reversed that the public will now never see, because they've come in and said it's subject to this thing called sequestration. And because it was invalidated, the lies that the FBI pumped into that material is not available to the public. But it is available to John Durham. And I've seen it, and I've seen the underlying documentation the FISA court has seen showing the FBI's corruption under Andy McCabe and James Comey. And let's not forget that Rod Rosenstein, Trump's Deputy Attorney General and acting AG, signed off on one of the warrants that was invalidated. And I, as the chief investigator, have always said the most fraud and the biggest lies were presented in that FISA that Rod Rosenstein signed. And that's the one that we still can't tell the American public what was in there.
Wow. Yeah, that's right. There are parts of it that are still redacted. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but John Durham, they're not redacted from John Durham.
That's right. So and the judge could see them. Yeah.
The judge can see them.
Well, we wouldn't be at this point, Kash, if it wasn't for the extraordinary work you did and that Chairman Devin Nunes did at the time. And we have to remind people, because so much time has passed, when you were digging in, you were under nuclear war attack every day from the Democrats, calling you guys conspiracy theorists and frauds and doing illegal things by going to the White House and blah, 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 blah. All of that turned out to be false. You never lost sight of the mission that the American people gave you as a member of Congress. And that was to get the American people the truth, no matter who didn't want it out. At this point now, as you look out, you've created this incredible movement called Fight with Kash. Do you see the opportunity to maybe push back on some of these institutions that created the false narrative against you, against the president, against people who went after Joe Biden and his son? Do you kind of see a moment where Fight with Kash now has the ability to rectify reputations and to put people who made horrific false stories the truth for a while, that they can now be punished in some way?
Yeah, I do. And thanks for letting me talk about fightwithkash.com. It's Kash with a K. Look, the ultimate end goal, it's the same at Fight with Kash as it was when I was in government doing this investigation or running Trump's DOD. It's accountability. You are serving in those roles as a privilege, as an honor to the American people. You are volunteering to them that I'm going to take on this mantle and tell you the truth. And that's what Devin agreed to from day one, no matter what we found. And I had never met Donald Trump when I took on this investigation. I didn't know the guy.
Right.
I said, if he did it, we're going to tell the world. If he didn't do it, we're going to tell the world. We're going to put out the facts. And that's what Fight with Kash is about, because the left-wing media and Adam Schiff's in the world and company have maligned so many American citizens for believing in the truth and our mission that they defame them and they ruin people's careers. And look, one example is the guy who owned the laptop, or owned the store where Hunter Biden's laptop was presented. His life was ruined, and he's finally now filing a defamation lawsuit. Yep. That's what we do at Fight with Kash. If you've been defamed, we know defamation lawsuits cost money that people don't have. We raise the money, we review your case for free, and we pay for your day in court, because accountability matters. Accountability against the mainstream media must be final in court, and that's the only place that they will take notice, because otherwise they'll just keep writing their lies. So I do think Fight with Kash is a place there, and I encourage your audience to check it out at fightwithkash.com. We're not gonna stop. We've got multiple lawsuits already going for Americans, and it's a great mission, and we are going to make the mainstream media pay for their lies. But above all, John, they've corrupted how Americans in the world receive accurate reporting. So you and I and so many others have to go out there and continue to tell the world how they were lied to for so many years and make sure that never happens again. That's the biggest mission of all.
It is.
And fightwithcash.com is just a piece of it.
It is remarkable. And after going through that and putting up with all the crap that you put up with, you somehow found the wherewithal to go try to help other people who are now going through it today or will go through it in the future. What a gift that gives on, because you have not only now the resources to do it, you have the experience of how to navigate these disinformation campaigns that the left and the media carried out to destroy reputations. You're right. John Paul McIsaac and Devin Nunes and you and Carter Page and Mike Flynn, all of their good reputations were ruined by basically false PR machinery. And now, for the first time, people have an ally, a well-funded ally that can go out and fight that in real time. What a gift to give back to the American public.
Yeah, look, you're part of it, John. You're a big part. You're a leader of this mission. So we're never going to stop talking as long as you're just going to continue covering what needs to be covered. And I don't see that ending anytime soon. And Just the News is, kicking ass. And, on Truth Social, you guys are on fire. Your articles are one of the most followed articles on the platform.
It's such a great conversation. And also tell people, because folks, if you didn't see the Friday edition of Cash's TV show, it is the best primer on why what's at stake in the Sussman trial and what's going on. Kash, what's the best way for people to watch the great work you're doing at Epic TV?
Oh, thanks so much, John. Yeah, so look, you can just go to Cash's Corner. It's you can get it off of fightwithcash.com, or you can just go on Truth Social. I'm at Kash, Kash. But it's once a week. It comes out, Cash's Corner on Epoch TV. All the links are on at Truth Social or at fightwithcash.com. And we talk about everything from John Durham to national security. And you can watch it at any time you want, but the new episode's released on Friday night. And we're focusing big time on John Durham like you are. And it's a good exchange. And
it's a great show. And we're good friends with the folks at Epoch Times, and we do a lot of work with them behind the scenes. And it is I have it on an alert. So the second it's posted, I get an alert and I know it's there and I go watch it. It is a fantastic show. And you know what? It's the modern way people want to consume evidence. A lot of television today has got a formulaic way of doing it. The Sunday shows have been the same for 50 years. The opinion shows on CNN, Fox, they're all the same. They all have the same format. You have a format that I think is so refreshing because it's about explaining and giving voice to Americans' ideas and helping them understand and treating the American as being smart enough to understand. There too many elitists in Washington diss the American public. They don't get this. We have to tell them what to think. You don't do that. You walk people through the evidence and let them make up their own mind. I think it's one of the freshest formats I've seen in television. It's just a tremendous show.
It's very kind of you. Thanks very much. I learned it by watching you.
Well,
a line from an old movie.
You got to get better mentors than that. I'll tell you that. You're in trouble if you're there. Well, it's an amazing thing you're doing, and we're always grateful. People love when you come on this show, Kash, and I just want to say thanks. And I guess in a couple of weeks, we got a trial to watch. It's going to be big.
We got a trial to watch, and I'm coming back on your show soon for a special announcement, John.
I can't wait.
We're going to have some fun soon.
I know that. People are going to love when they hear what this is. It's a big deal. All right, Kash. Well, thanks again. We made a lot of sense of this weekend filing. And, of course, we got the big story tonight with Mike Flynn that we'll be making public. And can't wait to get you on soon.
Thanks again, John. Appreciate being with you.
All right, folks. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to go to one of our great reporters. Aaron Kliegman broke a great story this morning about some dirty dealings in Georgia with Governor Brian Kemp. Yet he's actually helping to fund a George Soros project, not making that up. You're going to get that next from our great colleague, Aaron Kliegman, right after the commercial break. Hey, folks, this weekend I was spending some great time with the two dogs I love. I've got two doodles. They're amazing. Bentley and Bailey, they're like a brother-sister team. They're adorable, energetic. They bring such joy. But you know what? What's the most nutritious type of meat you can feed your dog? That's a question I often ask myself. Well, the most nutritious type of meat for your dog is organ meat like beef liver. It's naturally rich in nutrients your dog needs for a healthy heart, strong muscles, and of course, a full, happy life. Now, the U.S. is still experiencing an organ meat shortage due to packing house closures. Dr. Marty developed Nature's Blend, a premium freeze-dried raw dog food made in North America. 81% of the formula is made from real cuts of raw turkey, raw beef, raw salmon, and raw organ meats to support your dog's health, happiness, and wellness. It's designed to mimic what your dog would eat in the wild, and it is pantry safe. Like my dogs, Bentley and Bailey, your dogs will love every bite. For a limited time, save 50% off your first order. All you got to do, go to drmartypets.com/justnews. Let me give you that again. Dr. Marty's Pets, DRMARTYPETS.com/justnews, or can't remember that. Here's a simpler way. Just text the word just news, one word, to 511-511. It's easy. Just news, text it, 511-511. Now, Dr. Marty's offers a 100% 90-day return on your purchase price. So text Just News to 511-511 right now. Remember, it's that easy. Just News to 511-511. You're going to get 50% off your first order today. Text fees may apply. You may receive up to one additional text. Text stop to opt out. Hey folks, we bought a home a couple of years ago, and my wife and I had the worst experience for the first few months. Not because the house wasn't great. It is a beautiful house. But you know what? All of a sudden, everything the prior owners left behind us went kaput. First, it was an HVAC. Then it was a furnace. Then it was a refrigerator and a dishwasher. And my wife and I were going, oh my God, we didn't budget for any of this. Well, I got news for you. You want to prevent that from happening, and we have just the solution. Our good friends at American Home Shield, you know what they do? They take that doubt away from you. They have 3 incredible plans to help cover the costs to repair or replace parts of major home systems and appliances. Why not get that protection today? You'll keep your sanity, you'll keep your budget in check, and you'll keep a lot happier. These guys do great work. I'm a huge fan of American Home Shield, and it's a very simple thing. To keep your home up and running and your budget on track, all you got to do is go to American Home Shield right now, and you can use the John Solomon Just the Nose discount. How do you do that? You're going to get $50 off their most comprehensive plan ever. Go to ahs.com/Just the News. Let me give that again. Go to AHS, that's American Home Shield.com/Just the News, and you're going to save $50 right off the bat. That's a big savings for a lot of peace of mind. Don't waste a minute. Go to ahs.com right now /Just the News, and you're going to get $50 off the plan and a whole lot of better sleeping at night, because you're going to know you're protected, your budget is intact. These are great folks. Check them out real quickly right now. All right, folks, welcome back from the commercial break. So glad to welcome this next guest. He is a colleague of mine at Just the News, breaks some of the biggest and best stories, including the #1 read story on our site this morning. His name is Aaron Kliegman. You know him well because you see his work all the time on the site. And he had an amazing story about a little bit of graft and corruption questions surfacing in the state of Georgia. I know that would surprise you. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me on.
It is a great honor to have you on, and I just enjoy reading your stories. You do such a thorough job, and you write in such a way that people really can understand complex or tricky political things, and all of a sudden they come to life. Like an everyday person goes, aha, I know what this is, and I think you did this with this Brian Kemp tax incentive package that was given to a George Soros funded company. Tell us a little bit about what the story is and the reaction that Senator Perdue, who's challenging Kemp, had to it.
Sure. So there's this electric vehicle company called Rivian. It's based in California. And what happened is in December, Governor Kemp of Georgia, his government agreed with Rivian to this deal for Rivian to build a $5 billion with a B dollar manufacturing plant in Georgia. And what happened is last week, both sides kind of finalized the deal, and Georgia's essentially going to give a 1.5 billion with a B dollar incentive package for Rivian to come here, and includes all kinds of things like tax credits and just a whole litany of things that you can look in the story about. 198 million in site and road improvements on the property. So this. And Governor Kemp's been touting this as a huge deal, but his opponent, former Senator David Perdue, in the gubernatorial primary, Republican primary, has been calling this a bad deal. He's even said, there's some questions about how potentially shady dealings for how it came about, and the company is actually tied to George Soros as well, which, especially in a Republican primary, is raise some noise. So I'm happy to discuss all of the above in more detail.
Yeah, pretty remarkable. And a big moment just happened a little bit ago. Ford, which had also been an investor in Rivian, the same company alongside of George Soros. What did Soros have? About a 20% stock? Is that stake in the company? Something like that?
He bought about 20 million shares worth about $2.1 billion at the time.
Right.
Now, as we're about to discuss, I'm sure that's much less now. But
Right.
I don't. We have to wait for the latest securities filings. I'm not exactly sure what he's done since then. But this was as of February, securities filing showed he had bought that much and was one of the biggest investors in the company as a result.
And now Ford dumps its stock today, right? About 8 million shares, if I remember that right.
Yeah.
Or $8 million worth of shares.
Exactly. It was significant, and I think there had already been, which is one thing that former Senator Perdue had brought up, as he obviously as a businessman ran 2 Fortune 500 companies, and he has brought up, among other things, the economic viability, sort of the economic judgment of the deal, since Rivian, even before this latest move by Ford to pull out, and you saw Rivian's stocks plummet further, it had already, since the share price had hit a high of, I believe it was $180 in November, and last week it was in the high 20s. It was plummeted by something like 75%. It was 6 times lower.
Wow.
And a lot of this was, and Rivian reported in the fourth quarter of last year a $2.5 billion in losses. So, and a lot of this was because of the company just wasn't producing. They said we want to make this number of units, and they just kept not meeting it, and they had to half their planned production output for this year. So it's and I think one thing that Senator Perdue's capitalized on, he's saying it's one thing if you're putting this much not only political capital but actually taxpayer dollars toward making a deal with the company that has a proven track record. That's one thing. It's a lot of money, but maybe it's worth it. But he's saying this is a company that is largely unproven, so we don't know. So he's questioning the economic wisdom of the decision.
Yeah.
And this latest Ford news just, I guess, further bolsters that argument.
Yeah, listen, Ford makes decisions based on good economics, and they're clearly lost faith in the bet they made on this company. And I think part of it is the company really hasn't produced a product that, some people say, well, electric vehicles are hot right now. Look at what Elon Musk has done. But this company really hasn't had the same traction as Musk's company, Tesla, or some of the other ones. It's been going for a long time. It keeps getting investments, and it's kind of plodding along. And so Ford pulling out after the governor just announced these tax incentives is going to, I'm sure, have an impact in the final days of an election, a primary election between Kemp and Perdue. You had one other angle to the story, which I found interesting, which is there is somebody close to the governor, Governor Kemp, whose land was involved in this. Talk a little bit about what you found for one of Kemp's associates in this deal.
Sure. So there's a guy named Alan Werner, he's the Werner family. It's big there in the Rutledge, Georgia area. They've had a farm there for a long time, and he and his siblings own about several hundred acres of property that's been earmarked for the Rivian plant. It's about 1/3 of the total area. The total area is about 2,000 acres roughly. This is a little under 700 that's been earmarked, and this person, Alan Werner, was serving as chairman of the Joint Development Board, essentially an authority in the state of Georgia that was involved in the land deals that would be involved for making this $5 billion plant happen. And he was as the chairman over various counties. So he was involved in the discussions. He vacated his position in August of this past year when the talks were well advanced, but ethics experts have expressed concern because he and his family are going to profit. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution reported more than $20 million combined for the family.
Yeah.
Werner, his lawyer, people close to him have said he took every necessary step to ensure there is no conflict of interest, so he's abstaining from relevant votes and things like that. But obviously, this is something that's gotten attention down in Georgia, and former Senator Perdue has noted it in remarks on Friday on the Just the News Not Noise television program and things like that. So it adds to the, questioning about how this deal came about.
Yeah, and this is a big chunk of money. $1.5 billion is a lot of money for a state the size of Georgia. That's a pretty good sized state, but that's a chunk of change. And I think there was a great line that the senator had that this was a deal done at the dark of night, right? And basically calling question that the lack of transparency. When Kemp first rolled this out, there wasn't a lot of transparency to what was going on. And because of persistence of people like Senator Perdue, many others, the Atlanta Constitutional Journal, who you mentioned, now we have some visibility into what went on. But as I think the senator called, this is a good old boy deal done in the dark of night. I think a lot of people know what that means in Georgia. It'll be very interesting to see how this played out. You did a great job in exposing. This is the sort of stuff that I think with Just the News we're trying to do on a daily basis. Any reaction to it as you've watched the story? It's the number one story on the site, but just any early reaction about where this story heads next?
I think, well, it'll be interesting to see if it has an effect on the polls going forward. I think so far Governor Kemp's been ahead, but Governor Perdue has cast doubt on the polls. Obviously, I think a lot of people in this country have lost faith in the polling overall over the past two election cycles. So
right.
I think we'll see how that shakes out, or whether, could there be an investigation into how this deal came about? Could there be, if Rivian's really, if their stocks continue to tumble, at what point does the government of Georgia, state government of Georgia, say, what did we do? Is there a way to get out? Because it's, essentially making an investment on essentially a startup company. This is a relatively new company that hasn't really produced much.
Yeah,
and it's,
great point.
there's a lot of, interest. There's a lot of expectation that electric vehicles will kind of take off in the future, especially with the kind of environmental push towards them, but they're also more expensive to make.
Yep.
Not everyone is. Elon Musk is, I think, a unique individual. We can't all expect other businesses to sort of do what he did.
Yeah,
so,
you're right on the money with that.
We'll see. Yep. And one thing I just wanted to know quickly about going back to, I forgot a reference with George Soros, is one thing that Senator Perdue has pointed out is Rivian is based in California. It has very much portrayed itself as a champion in combating climate change, and I think that's one thing that he's pointed out. And obviously that's probably, it seems like that's perhaps one reason why George Soros, obviously a major Democratic mega donor, is supported progressive causes. Maybe that's one reason why he put so much investment in it. And in a Republican primary, obviously that could be politically problematic potentially for Governor Kemp. We'll see.
Yeah, well, a lot to be honest. I know you'll be on top of it like you are, and all the good stories that you break. We're very lucky to have you, and I just wanted our listeners to get a good sense of how important this story is. $1.5 billion to a Soros company. It hasn't really been succeeding. Ford now pulls out. Kind of makes that whole investment a lot more suspect. Aaron, great job on this and all the other work that you do for us. We're very blessed to have you here at Just the News.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm happy to be at Just the News.
We're happy you're here, too. And I can't wait to see your next story, because you have one almost every day that people go, oh, my gosh, I can't believe that. So I'm sure you'll have more great stuff in the morning. Thanks again, my friend.
A couple good ones. Planned for this week.
I knew it. That's great. Well, congratulations on all the great work. And thanks for doing this story. It's such a public service. We really enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, John.
Take care.
It was fun. Happy to be here.
All right. You as well. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up.
Each morning, the President of the United States receives a highly classified briefing on the most important issues facing the country. It's called the President's Daily Brief, or PDB. It's delivered to the President by America's spies and analysts to help guide the nation. Well, now you can hear your very own PDB in the form of a podcast hosted by me, Brian Dean Wright, a former CIA operations officer. Each morning at 6 a.m. Eastern, I'll bring you 15 to 20 minutes of the most important issues facing the country, giving you the critical intelligence you need to start your morning. So subscribe to the President's Daily Brief wherever you get your podcasts.
The show is in full bloom with great deals on shoes. Greet the first signs of spring show with our selection of ladies' wedges, the season opener show with kids' athletic slides from Champion, and the Dust Off the Grill show with his and hers comfy casuals. Enjoy Showstopper rewards. $1 of rewards for every $20 you spend, and your points never expire, so you can always enjoy the show. Sign up online or see store manager for details. Step into your local shoe show or visit shoeshow.com.
All right, folks, that wraps up another edition of John Solomon Reports. So glad you can join us. It's such an honor to have you on. I really thought about some of the stuff Kash said. Well, I'd keep an eye out for this idea of a conspiracy charge maybe coming in the future. I think a lot of people might see John Durham going in that direction, given what we now know. And of course, stay tuned tonight for the Mike Flynn exclusive. We're not going to let you down. A very important story. Again, one of the other many bad narratives that the American public got from the mainstream media, the Democratic propaganda machine that was out there. All right, now, before we go, I want to tell you about one of our partners, and one of our newer partners, one of our sponsors and advertisers, somebody I've been using for a long time in my homes. They're called American Home Shield, and they give you peace of mind, which, by the way, today is even more important with inflation, right? You don't want any unexpected bills taking a bite out of your budget when the gas tank and the grocery store runs are already taking a historic bite out of your budget, 10+% a year. The folks at American Home Shield for 50 years have been protecting household budgets from the unexpected, like a dryer that won't dry, or an air conditioner that's lost its cool, a heating system that, well, won't heat. In fact, and you know how expensive all of those are, they help cover the cost to repair or replace parts on over 20 home systems, not just one, 20 different types of home systems and appliances. You know, the big stuff, the stuff that when it goes, it takes a big bite out of your wallet. They are amazing. It doesn't matter how old the systems are. The service fees, the limitations, exclusions apply, but they have a plan just for you. And because you're a John Solomon Reports fan, because you are a Just the News fan, you guys can take an extra $50 off the cost of one of their most comprehensive plans. You just go to AHS, that stands for American Home Shield, ahs.com/justthenews, and you're going to get $50 off. That's ahs.com/justthenews. Go check it out. Go support these guys. They're amazing. I've covered my homes with American Home Shield for a long time. I'm renewing this week because I'm about to be up on my 1 year. And boy, I just have peace of mind. If something goes, I'm not worried about it. And you shouldn't too. Go check it out with this incredible deal. Do $50 off is a big savings on a plan for your home. Why not have the peace of mind? Get rid of the unexpected. Know what your protection is. American Home Shield, good friends. All you got to do right now, go to ahs.com/justthenews, and you'll get $50 off if you sign up for the most comprehensive plan. It is amazing. All right, and tonight, tune in. We're going to have a great show on Just the News, Not Noise. Amanda and I will be interviewing Senator Ron Johnson. We also got Ward Connolly, one of the great civil rights leaders, to be talking about the Supreme Court and affirmative action. And Jake Evans, a candidate who just got one of those coveted Trump endorsements. All of that, plus we'll break some more news. We'll lead you down the road to understanding this important Mike Flynn story after the show. So tune into that tonight. That's on Real America's Voice, Channel 219, on Dish, Channel 240, and Pluto, on all the apps, including Samsung, Pluto, Roku, and Just the News. The Just the News app, just click the watch button and you can be in on the TV show. Amanda and I have so much fun, and we'd love to invite you there as well. Have a great one. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition. Until then, God bless you and God bless this extraordinary country of the United States, as he always has. Yep, you've been listening to John Solomon Reports, the podcast from Just the News.